Hey, what's up, internet world? Signing in again for day 2 of this this little project. We'll keep it going, try and do a daily dose and see how it goes. I want to start off this video with a quick thanks and a quick gratitude to a username R-E. So this anonymous user, not sure who he or she is, but he or she commented on my video post about my introduction to the idea system of libertarianism, and I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate that. I uploaded a handful of videos and thought, who would ever watch them? But I kind of put them out there again, feeling like I was starting a conversation, and was really hoping to put it out in the world and then get some feedback back. And so he or she left a really detailed comment, kind of talking about a bunch of thinkers in the space of liberty, but even to even further on down the road to anarchy, and some of the thinkers in those spaces, and mentioned some books and some ideas worth considering. And it was a multiple paragraph post and comment. And so again, I just want to say, hey, thanks, man, or woman. I really appreciate it. Again, it makes it feel like I'm not just talking to my phone that's sitting on top of a bottle of protein powder with a candle holding it up on the backside. I'm putting some words out there and then hoping to engage with people. So yeah, just wanted to start off with that. That being said, I wanted to talk about an interview I listened to yesterday, or I guess maybe over the past couple of days. It was Michael Malice on Jordan Peterson's podcast. And so again, if you happen to stumble upon this little show, I'm sure you've heard of those guys, or at least for sure Jordan Peterson. And someone I've had kind of, again, just being on the internet trying to learn things, had seen this Michael Malice character on the Tim Pool show when he had Alex Jones on, and I thought, oh, this guy seems interesting and smart, but didn't. He mentioned the anarchy thing, and I'm thinking, that's not really my style. Doesn't really appeal to me. So didn't necessarily look into him for a period of time until relatively recently. I can't remember what kicked it off, but I came across him again and thought, okay, this guy's got some very interesting ideas. I want to know a little bit more about him and a little bit more about his way of thinking. So I listened to a few of his episodes on Joe Rogan's podcast, and then an episode he did with Lex Friedman. So all super interesting stuff, and a couple other clips on some other shows he'd done. And what I found that he was able to do was kind of really expertly kind of dismiss some of those initial concerns that someone might have when you hear the idea of anarchy. I think what you think of is chaos and violence and red spray painted A's, and Antifa in the streets terrorizing people and things like that. And I mean, maybe it rightfully has that reputation. I don't know. I'm just sort of becoming aware of it in this more, what seems like a mature sense, and more of an ideology, something put forward by a guy like Michael Malice, where he's actually, again, trying to articulate some smart ideas and isn't just going around punching people in the face. So all of that being said, what I found him to be really good at in a lot of these talks that he had been on was, again, dismissing those kind of immediate concerns someone has when you're like, okay, no government. Well, doesn't that mean my safety will be in jeopardy, right? Will, tribalism ensue, and then might makes right, and then, am I going to be in danger walking down the street? And he kind of, really sort of smartly and comfortably will kind of counters with this notion that, hey, there's private security already exists, and the fact that state governments or the federal government or whoever it is has a monopoly on security is what actually makes it worse, right? And I think we saw that in a town that I lived in Seattle, over the past summer, where, hey, there was parts of town where it straight up did not feel safe to be in, and the question becomes, would any system have produced that result, or are there alternatives or that would have produced potentially a better result? And so if you take away the monopoly and you have maybe more of a decentralized privatization of people's own security, do you get a better outcome? And so just the way he really quickly kind of throws it around, like, well, bars have bouncers and security, hotels have security, nice condos or, gated communities, they all have security. They don't need the government to step in and perform that service. And so he says, hey, if the government released this monopoly power on this particular service, would we not see more of that? Would we not see neighborhoods hiring private security, or seeing lots of private security firms stand up in the same way that we have, cell phone services, and you could just be a subscriber to a private security company that would be able to protect you? It doesn't seem like an idealistic way to think, like, oh, it's just all going to work out. It seems like a very practical, there would be incentives for companies, neighborhoods, and for people to provide this service and for people to purchase the service, and it would make it more affordable. So anyhow, all that being said, he makes a very interesting case, or it has very interesting responses to some of these very initial, questions someone might have, like they do in a lot of these interviews he's on. So all that being said, he was on Jordan Peterson's podcast, and I thought it was super interesting because Jordan Peterson was kind of like a dog on a bone. He wouldn't let up. He wouldn't just take those initial answers, and he kept pressing and pushing and pressing his his thinking and wanting to really understand his ideology, which I thought was great, because in a lot of these other talks I'd kind of seen it come up, some smart answers, and then move on. And so what I thought was super interesting, again, with having a bunch of respect for both of these guys, and would love to, of course, get at some point in my life, get to meet both of them and interact and learn from both of them. So that being said, one thing that I started to question was the principle on which some of Michael's critiques were founded upon, right? And so if you go and listen to the interview, he has a lot of critiques of corporations and corporate media, and I think they're valid critiques, but I think he takes it one step further and to say, hey, these people are evil. They, whether it's they propagandize to people that has then led to dead bodies, right? That, they've misinformed the public, and then that's led to a war. Like, these were the types of ideas he was putting out. And I think that, and then Jordan was pushing back and kind of saying, well, is it the system that's, well, I may be getting a little bit mixed up, but I think the main takeaway I had, like the main thing I kept kind of screaming into my headphones, was the difference between a voluntary arrangement and an involuntary arrangement. And so listening to this conversation, what I kept thinking was these hierarchies and these structures within society. They talked about Harvard, the corporate press, just corporations in general, different businesses that sell everyday products that are in the store. And, Michael didn't necessarily have an issue with, Mountain Dew or Tropicana or, like benign things like that. But he did have an issue with Harvard or the corporate press or some of these other institutions that he found despicable. And I think it never got to a place of okay, well, what is the difference between these two? And on a matter of principle, what is the difference, and why do you consider one good and consider one bad? And I think that what I wanted to just interject, if I could have been in that room, was it seems like the difference is the difference between voluntary and involuntary, right? So most, or government institutions that tax the population and provide services or lack thereof, it's doing it in an involuntary manner, right? And it's not an arrangement, that I am voluntarily taking part in. Meanwhile, in one of these kind of more benign corporations that sell juice or they sell bubble gum or things like that, that's a complete voluntary act, to the degree that they're not subsidized by the government or to the degree that their competitors aren't regulated, or small startup operations aren't regulated to the point of where they're hamstrung or crippled and not able to compete with them. It is, more on the spectrum of voluntary, as opposed to some of these organizations that Michael seemed to have such an issue with. So all that being said, I think that kind of the idea I walked away with was, and also the one thing where I might have parted ways with Michael in ideology is he seemed to be really critical of the individuals that make up these different organizations. And I think to a certain degree I understand that, because it's, hey, if you're taking part in a system, you're kind of condoning it. But there's also, I think, sort of an inertia or momentum of society and life that, you sort of can end up in a position and you do the best you can, or you're led by, you are a decent person, but you're led by the incentives of that position. So I don't think that all of the people that make up the organizations he would have an issue with are necessarily bad. I don't think they're in whole bad people, right? I think you have a bell curve, and you probably have some people who are cruel, mean-spirited individuals, or who have nefarious intentions. But then I think you have, probably decent people, and then really, really good people, just like you would in any other organization. It's just that when they are taking part in an involuntary arrangement, the effects are much more harmful than if you have an evil person running a completely private business. Again, the only way they're able to get your money is in general, through voluntary means, right? And so that's where that kind of can keep their bad nature at bay, because they have to interact with people on a voluntary basis. So all that being said, those were just some thoughts I had after and during listening to this discussion. And I wasn't sure necessarily what I was going to make a recording about tonight, but I was so fired up that my online friend, username R-E, had commented on my previous video, that I thought, all right, let's do it. Let's talk about a similar subject tonight. So let me know what you guys think. Appreciate any feedback, and if I have, if you're saying this guy has no idea what he's talking about, well, let me know why. Let me know where you agree or disagree. What information should I be consuming to get smarter on this topic? And all of that being said, if you made it to the end of this video, and especially you, Mom, because you are right now my only subscriber, and boy, do I appreciate it. Then, hey, have a great evening, and I will catch you guys all tomorrow, unless as soon as I hit stop, if I have another idea I want to talk about on the next video. So anyhow, have a great evening, and yeah, take care. I'll see you guys next time.